Gotta get me one of those hats. Yes. So, reminder to self, the sound check actually includes making sure that we have selected the right input for the sound. We're going to do a little scene switching here because I'm not 100% certain that the sound is going to follow us. Looks like everything's fine. Yep. Yep. This is what you want to see when you do a sound check. Okay, and the other thing I noticed here is nothing good will come of this. We're connected to the VPN while we're streaming, so I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna come back, not on the VPN, and hopefully this will not have harmed anyone. Okay. Okay, we're off the VPN now. I'm back, but I need a minute. Sorry. I'll be back. Okay, friends, this is my hat I bought in Paris. I hope you like it. Actually, I got two hats. They're both great for green screen. This one looks a little bit otherworldly. Here, this yellow is catching the green screen too. That's very interesting. Oh, tracker not connected. We made a grievous error. Alright, that's okay. We haven't started anything yet. How do I... Here, it says Bluetooth is enabled. But it also says tracker not connected. Now it says connected. Alright. Here's what we're looking at. Oh. Can't see today because in the week view, it's Monday through Friday. Alright. Great. Okay, so I do actually want to show everyone my great new hat. Oh, I don't know if I can wear this with the green screen. It might be too much. So it's beret style. I don't know if I'm wearing it right, but maybe we can see it better if let's go to turn the filter off for a second here. There, that's great. I love it. Yeah. See? Oh, very fashionable. Oui, I got it in Paris. In Paris. So it has magic trip energy. It's a CubeCon hat, right? So, all right, let's put the effect back on. I might have to take the hat off. Oh. Put the other hat on. I like the hat. I like this hat just as much. I don't want the hat to become jealous at all. Let's see, how do you line this up so that they don't look uneven? Trying to get all the lines to come out just right. Oh, no way, not a chance. Oh. Oh. That's how you can do it. There's a double buffer. I love it. I love it. All right, yeah, I got this hat in Paris. Okay, Sunkworks, episode 38. What is it, 38 now? I have no idea. I have to read and see. What did we put in the show notes? Yes, it's episode 38. It says an error occurred. We may have blown the stream out. It says excellent connection. It says we're live. Okay. All right. Just want to make sure I'm not recording into the void. It looks good. All right. So how do I get to a link to the show? Okay, and now we need to flip to here. I can put my OBS window down here. Let's move this guy over here. All right, now we can read the show notes. I think that should be good. Let's get a little bigger. Okay, so we're not just going to read the show notes. You can read the show notes. I'm not going to do it for you, but I will try to refrain from awkwardly flicking the scroll up and down while I talk about the section. So, a few episodes ago, we built the Flux website. And we talked about a feature that we're going to build into the Flux website. Sorry. Well, that's very trippy. I almost never look at the top of my head. I like that. Okay. So we hypothesized that we're going to need some JavaScript, and so we built a little. We built the Flux website a little bit to see what is the build process like there, and is there anywhere we can insert some JavaScript. And I think what we found. Let's make this a little bigger as well. And I think what we did find. Here, we're going to make this not so wide that my arm covers it. What we did find was that it's a Go site. It's a Hugo site. And it does include some JavaScript, and there are some JavaScript issues to be resolved in the updates. But at the pinned version of the Doxy theme, so it's a theme from a Google external Doxy, it's a Go module that imports some JavaScript. And there is some issue. It also imports CSS, right? It imports CSS for Bootstrap. And I don't know what version it does, what exactly. But long story short, that stuff is all very complicated, and we can't really change any of it or upgrade because of an issue upstream that we would have to resolve then. So we're going to try to avoid dealing with that at all. We're just going to look really briefly at our Hugo config, which I don't understand. It says something about assets, SCSS, Doxy. I inferred from this that we're reaching into Doxy somehow and modifying their theme settings. like as a overlay, but I don't really understand this part. And then it has this mounts where we mount the English content at a directory content, and all of the targets are where these things are placed for, I don't really know exactly, but we have this assets directory that gets populated with some other things. And I guess at some point in time, the user gets these things that they get passed on to the user. So, so we know the assets directory has some SCSS files in it that get processed somehow, and a JS file, actually. And this is the best news, because we were hemming and hawing about how are we going to insert some JavaScript, and what we did not know is that someone has already done this, and it looks like it's jQuery. If this is jQuery, I think this is jQuery. We must have imported jQuery from somewhere. And it looks like it's just grabbing each of the list items and adding a click handler. So it's not very complicated. It's taking the children calendar card and assigning it to card. And then I have no idea what this does. Honestly, I can't read JavaScript. But I sort of know what it does because I know that there's only one thing it could be doing. It's a click handler, so it does the thing that happens on click, and there's only one thing that happens on click on the entire website. It's here, all these things. When you mouse over them, they are supposed to beckon you to click, right? With their mouse over effect. And that is all CSS. And sorry, I think that because this screen is I really want to switch these screens around, but I can't do it during the stream. Anyway, sorry. So what we need to do, we need to do a little bit more here. I don't think we can do this in the form of a click handler, because this needs to happen on load. But I guess this code all gets run on load. Let's see if we can find a reference to calendar.js. Not in content, probably in themes. No, themes, I think we created a clone of the Doxy theme, trying to follow the instructions on the website. It wasn't really working out for us. Alright, I think it's in layouts. That's where we invoke, yeah. Hooks, body, end. Calendar equals resources.get js calendar.js js.build calendar.js. Is this an or? Like a fall through statement? So we get the calendar.js from whatever source. Here we go. Calendar changes. There's a link. Tell us all about. it's really sluggish. And it's because I have this display link thing. The display link, honestly, it worked great until I did a macOS update. At one point, a macOS update slowed the whole thing down. I remember doing a test where I could see on the right-hand side monitor, here we're on the right-hand side monitor, everything is smooth as butter. You can scroll and it's wonderful. And on the left-hand side monitor, it was the same, but it's not anymore for sure. We had this tool, C screen. Here, maybe we need to fix. Now, see, they all seem to be set to 60 hertz. Maybe that's the problem, that the display link can't really do 60 hertz. And it was faking it. Let's see if I can fix it. See which one is which. This is 2, okay. Yeah, it says 2. Okay. And this one, default 60 hertz. I'm going to set it to 30 hertz. That actually seems quite a bit better. Badass. All right. So we got our display settings fixed. That's awesome. I mean, it doesn't look great, but it looks much better than it was. All right, so back to the show notes. So we said we're going to put some JavaScript in here, and we're going to package it up and host it somewhere that we can test it in a web context. And we can use the deploy preview for this, but I wanted to riff off of something that we did, again, a few episodes back. This is just a bit too big here for me. We were talking about this microscaler, GitOps docs. So we launched a website here using Spin, and we did a little sneaky in here. I'll show you what the sneaky is. Here in the make file, we have a clone target, which we assume that you run at some point, and then a build target that you have to go in here and run npm install first, or yarn install first, or it's not going to work. But this is the build target that creates a directory build with all the stuff in it, and we sync it to directory assets and serve it from there. So if you look back here at our spin.toml, it's a really simple Spin app. It doesn't even have an app. It's just the static file server with a digest for the static file server here, and it just points at a source directory assets, and it serves it up from the root. So normally we put our static file server under /static. We are not doing that. We are doing directly under / because we want people to be able to visit index.html. At /. That's which works great, by the way. Getops.weave.works works great. You can see here it's serving up the web page just great. Okay, so we do that. We do that again. We want to do that with the Flux website. But then we want to package our distribution, our build result, as an OCI artifact. Not necessarily because we want to use Flux to deploy it, but we're going to see how this works. And to see how it works with the CI, I think. It should be interesting to build it in CI. So I think I've tried this before and I misunderstood slightly. I remember coming at it with the idea that the OCI artifact should contain only the YAML manifests. And I still think that might be true. But for me, I needed, right, Spin has, well, we're going to try to just use Spin the way that, because I think Spin has a solution for this now. And we'd actually, we do want to bundle that assets file up at some point and ship it. So I guess we might just use Spin for that. And use Flux to deploy. So Flux will still have a separate artifact that's just the YAML manifest to deploy from, but Spin will have a Spin dist that has the WASM and all the assets bundled in together. And then one will refer to the other, and we'll have a digest like this in there, I think. Yeah, so there was something that I tripped over in a conversation with someone about OCI where we were trying to wrap our collective heads around how is OCI meant to be used, and I think that it was interesting, and I wanted to riff on it here again, and I don't think that we talked about it yet already, even though we started this conversation. So Flux OCI. So it was the idea that you would take, they were using the example of a Helm chart, but I don't think the Helm chart is the best example. I think you take some YAML manifests from upstream, like they have them in a Git repository, and maybe they don't know about Flux, or maybe they do, so maybe they decide to publish the YAML manifests as OCI artifacts with Flux. So I only know a few projects that do this. The Flux all-in-one distribution, for example, does this, I'm sure. Publish OCI artifacts right to GHCR. So we can follow their example of how to push the manifests. We've got make push mod here. So the example just offloads it to makefile, which then again offloads it to CLI. So Timony mod push. The @ sign, I think, makes it silent. I don't know how some of these makefile features work. So we give a source reference so everyone knows which repo it came from, and a version. Since this is a version tag, push mod version is set somehow. Shell grep version modules q values.q awk print. Okay, so I bet if we look in this file, we'll see there's a line that starts version : and the second field is the version. So we've seen this pattern before. So this implies that we will version our docs internally, which I was not planning on doing. But we do have a version anyway. We have the environment version that's either main or v2-2. So let's see what I'm talking about here. FluxCD website. GitHub workflows. Yeah, so we post twice. We have a build hook for main, and we have a build hook for, here it says v2-2, but v2-3 will be out soon, and we'll have to move it forward. So we do actually version the docs, but I was not planning on using tags for versioning, I guess, in the same way. Well, no, I think I just want to push from the main branch. I think I want to follow this pattern here, where we're pretending, yeah, because we know that it's a static page and it has some dynamic content on it, and the only reason we're able to make that work is because we rebuild periodically. So we're going to do that here as well, and we want those rebuilt images to be deployed automatically, and that will be part of the problem that we solve, which should be pretty easy. That's pretty much what you do with Flux. There's just one hang up, so it's this notion of semantic tags, and I think that we can defer to the Flux docs for how to solve this, but the short version is you need a marker in the image, because we don't have, you might hypothesize or even use this actual software. It's called Stackator Reloader. In fact, maybe we will use this, because I kind of like the way it would allow us. It allows you to put some config in a config map, basically. And the config in a config map, you can pull, well, so the problem is we can't just use a latest image or an environment image. Or, well, we could, you know, now that I'm thinking about it. Here, we'll use the receiver. That's what we'll do. I'm going to show you two different guides. I'm going to show you automate image updates to Git, which you should then follow configure image automation authentication, because this one will probably tell you to use a personal access token, and you certainly do not need to use a personal access token for the read part. You can use ambient credentials. I'm sorry, we're all over the place here today. So this was where I was trying to reach for. You need something in the tag, like a timestamp, to tell you what order the tags go in. This is a nuanced thing that I'm saying it now, but I'm going to go back on it later, because you don't always need something in the tag like that. But there is this notion of a latest tag that we typically have to tell people not to use in GitOps, because they need to understand that the definition, the manifest, points to a specific version. GitOps, open GitOps, right? We have declarative manifests, and the desired state is stored in a way that enforces immutability. So that means that the latest tag is out. We can't have a latest tag in a manifest. If we have a generator that creates a manifest, and the manifest points at the latest tag, then it had better also include SHA, which this is a cool trick I've seen the Fermion guys do. They use ttl.sh, that is an unauthenticated image host. And so what you're telling me, like, I can just upload an image there, and anyone can upload an image. Like, if I push to a tag and someone decides to push over that tag, they can just push over the tag, and it's got a TTL, so it goes away after a while. Yes, so understanding the way that OCI repositories work, there is a SHA hash of the image that uniquely identifies the image, and that is how you should refer to it if you want your definition to be rigorously immutable. But in the past, we haven't always had these tools, so we had to be satisfied with treating tags as immutable. So we know, like, or we could set up policy in our image repository so that tags are actually immutable and they have a retention policy, right? So that once a tag is pushed, we know that the thing that was pushed to that tag will only be the thing that was pushed to that tag thenceforth. But that's a policy directive that you set up that isn't a guarantee. It's more like a well, I guess it is a guarantee. It's a guarantee via policy, but it's not a guarantee in a mathematical way where you say, no, but look here, this actually points at the image that we built. It can't point at anything else, and that's what your SHA hash is for. And that's what enables you to use something like a permissionless image registrar that you can just push to, because when you push, you know what SHA you pushed, and you can just refer to it with that SHA later. You're not going to get some image that someone else pushed over yours, because you'll get the image that you pushed with the SHA of the image that you pushed. And if you pull it down and it doesn't verify to the SHA that you pushed, that you stored, then you won't, you can reject the image at that point. So we can use image update automation with timestamp tags or version tags, and version tags are the most common because usually you do actually want to publish a version of whatever it is. In our case, that doesn't really make sense with the pattern. So what we're talking about doing is cloning the upstream website repo, just like we did in our makefile here. We're going to clone, only we're going to do this in the CI job. So we'll use, I know there's a GitHub Actions checkout that we can use to check out any, I think you can check out any repository that you want. It doesn't have to be the one that you run out of. So right, we have this microscaler, GitOps docs, and we have a deployment. This is the deployment repo. It's like the downstream, and this is the upstream, where we have the website directory that we actually build, right? Someone has to make sure that we have all the node modules before we try to build. And in our case, it's not going to be Weave GitOps, it's going to be the Flux website. with all of the JavaScript and all of the Hugo stuff that you need for Hugo. And maybe we'll do it in a Docker image because that will be much easier for us to guarantee. We already have a Docker image that has all of the Hugo requirements in it. So it will be much easier for us to guarantee that it actually builds. I think Netlify has a configuration for us that we won't be able to use on GitHub Actions. Right, it specifies a version of Hugo, a Node version and a Go version, and it's really lightweight. This is a nice config here. It's much easier for us to build on Netlify, but we can't just willy-nilly use Netlify for anything because they have, I don't know, we're not trying to depend on a vendor here. This is cloud native software. So if I can't run it on Kubernetes, I have a problem. So we actually do need to produce an image that we can run. And I think that image, correct me if I'm wrong, is going to be a spin app. Yeah, and we're going to push it to GHCR. And it's going to have all our content in it, and it's going to get versioned somehow, maybe with a timestamp, or maybe with an environment name. And that name could be latest. And how does this work? How can we make this work? By embedding in our Flux artifact. So our Flux artifact will roll forward every time there is a new version of the Spin app. We will embed via OCI. Probably we'll use YQ to substitute a version into a file that Flux then builds. It'll probably be customization.yaml, actually, because then we can use this customized CLI to set the image. I think that is how that works. Or you can, I don't know. The customization.yaml is a very simple file that's easy to parse, and I think customize set image is a thing. Yeah, customize edit set image. So that takes the image, name, new tag, right? So busybox is the old image name, and we're replacing it with a new image. That's our spin app, and a version, which instead of a version is a SHA. And then when Flux reconciles the OCI artifact, the definition of the deployment does indeed have a difference. So the dry run converts into a server-side apply that actually has an impact and creates a new pod with the new definition and starts running right away. So in between, we don't need image update automation because our CI is pushing the version. Our CI builds the spin app, and then it knows what version the spin app is. I'm pointing at the wrong thing here. So we're not calling out to an external service and telling it to build. We're actually going to build locally. And there may be a Hugo action that we can pull in so that we don't have to use our Docker image, because if we use our Docker image, then we're pulling the Docker image. And I don't know if that's probably not going to be slower than just pulling Hugo, but we haven't really optimized our Docker image. As far as I know, it's a full stack development environment, so maybe we should think about optimizing it. Or maybe we could just see if there's a Hugo Docker, GitHub action, which I'm sure there is. Hugo extended, Hugo modules, Linux, macOS, and Windows are supported. Yeah, so maybe we'll just use this, and then we don't have to pull. We can get the version we want. We can set extended, Hugo, build. This is perfect. So we actually get to sidestep all the existing. Yeah. So to understand what we're doing here, what we're trying to get across, what does OCI enable? It enables the downstream consumer to become a vendor more easily. And I'm not sure that is really a great characterization. I'm not sure that is saying anything super important, but we're talking about taking an upstream, for us, the Flux website, and then repackaging it and publishing it for distribution. So it's our own distribution, so we get to say what goes in it. We get to say how it's built. We get as much introspection as we want into the details of how it's built, right? And I'm saying we're going to get to own the runner, right? If this is a private action, we'll host it somewhere on our Kubernetes cluster, so we're not paying for actions runner minutes for private runners, because there's no need for that. We have lots of cluster space that goes unused all the time. Right, and we are going to aim to bring that number down, but also bearing in mind that GitHub Actions runner minutes are not free and they may not even be cheap. We should at least have an alternative plan in case it turns out that we're paying money for GitHub Actions runners, so that we don't have to pay money for them anymore, or don't have to pay as much. So, but this can be used to take a public repo and turn it into a private distribution. You can take and add anything you want at the build step, even things that are not in the original licensed work, things that are your own work that you add separately, that maybe comes with a shrink wrap license or something that says if you accept this, then you have these additional obligations, or maybe we don't distribute them at all. For us, the OCI distribution is so that we can distribute them, but maybe we distribute them internally, and our end users don't actually receive the OCI image. That's a possibility. It depends on what you're building, right? We're building the Flux website because we need to test some JavaScript out. And all right, so back to. All right, so we have our widget architecture. We're going to make a little thing. It's not going to be very complicated. There's some CSS that we'll have to write so that we're going to put some invisible data into the website. And we need to consider accessibility to make sure that this does not make things more difficult for screen reader users, which may mean we actually have to run a screen reader at some point, but I'm not going to go there today. But we will consult some, how does a screen reader work? How do I make sure that it doesn't read this content? Because we're going to create some invisible content. And the invisible content is the timestamp of each in time zone coded format that we can reparse and turn into a new in your time zone timestamp, right? And it's a very simple problem that we're solving. We've got this lovely calendar, team calendar, And the times are not in your local time zone, which means that no one knows what time anything is, and they can't just come to the website and figure it out. They have to go here and follow the instructions to import this to their own calendar so they get things in their own time zone, which reliably people cannot do. And even we've seen sometimes it breaks. You'll get an ICS file URL that for some reason it changes. Once in a while you get an iCal URL that it's bad. And we've shared it with a bunch of people. You're not going to come back to this page and try again. You'll just not notice that your calendar has gotten out of sync. So this is really bad in the current state, and we see the way that it plays out is bad in that people actually show up at the wrong time, and then they feel like they've wasted their time because we haven't done them the nicest thing that we can do, which is make this easy and accessible, right? We're just trying to make it accessible. So we're going to use a little bit of JavaScript. I hope that we don't have to do any building, because I think that it's easier if we don't build. And what we saw is we have this assets folder. We can just put a little bit of JavaScript in there. It gets included here. We saw this way. And it says defer, so I guess that means it runs eventually after the site is loaded, so it can set up click handlers for things that have already rendered on the page. I think that's what that does. If I was a JavaScript programmer, I would know. And we've got some API key in here that is for search, I guess. Doc search. That looks like it's the thing that the user gets because the users are the one who actually search. Lunar.js unpackage. I didn't realize we just incorporate scripts like this from outside. See, this might be much better for us than... So how does this work? Unpackage.com. Unpackage is a fast global content delivery network for everything on NPM. Oh, so we can pick a version if we want. Cool, cool, cool. So this is one of the problems that I actually was afraid of solving. Just a minute here. All right, so we said we had a question to resolve on the stream. I'm looking for where did it go? Was not this. I was going to ask us, LazyWeb, ask the stream, should we use stimulus or stimulus use? And where did the tabs go? I swear I had a tab open for this. It says quick start for actions runner controller. Is it on my other user account? Well, it is possible. Here, it's right here. Okay. So, we wanted to look at this and see, all right, are we going to use stimulus or are we going to use stimulus use? I don't know the answer. Here, but okay, so this is great. So it does help us understand. This is the second question that I had is, do you use stimulus use by itself, or do you use stimulus and stimulus use together? And it looks like the answer is the second. Okay, so if you've never used stimulus, I'm going to break it down for you in 2.5 seconds. All right, this is really easy. We've got our div data controller hello, so this is invoking a controller. And this is a controller. That's 2 seconds there, stimulus. We can do it in 5 seconds. So when the controller is connected, when the JavaScript runs, the connect method runs. And then other methods run as we call them. So that's stimulus in a nutshell. It's top-down in a way that I think I like, because we know on the div that it's invoking a controller, so we can look at the div and say, oh, this is a special div. This div has magic in it. And then we sprinkle the magic on in the form of JavaScript, and it's very small and concise, and it's easy to reckon with, and stimulus is not very big and hard to understand. It's not React. So stimulus, reflex is even more complicated than just stimulus. Where does stimulus, stimulus.hotwire.dev. Yeah, so here this just tells you what I just told you, except with a little bit more detail. So what you get here is not only the ability to invoke a controller, but the ability to identify targets and invoke actions on the controller. So the hello controller here, all right, this is the same code we just looked at, but with a little embellishment. The hello controller is here. This is the hello controller. And we don't see a connect method because this one doesn't have one. So just assume that a connect method was attempted to be called and there was no method there, so nothing happened. But the controller is still connected. We don't know how it gets connected. Someone calls our JavaScript from somewhere, I guess. And when the click event comes in, that's what data action says. The click event comes in, route it to hello greet. So here's our greet function in our hello controller. Gets called when the button is clicked. It says greet here. So here's our input, data hello target. So because it's in the hello controller, it's a data hello target, and it is called name. All right, and it becomes important that it's called name here when we reach into the name target and get the value out of it so that we can greet. So we set the text content of the output target. Here's our output target, right? And you know what's going to happen. I'm going to click the button, and it's going to tell me that I read the form wrong, right? You have to put the name in there. That's what it says. Enter name. Okay, so this is really easy, and it's nice because we actually do have this type of structure for our widgets, and we'd like to be able to invoke them without hand waving. I don't know how much hand waving there is. It's not going to be much worse than this, but it is a little bit worse because we have moving parts that need to interact with each other. right? We said we had a drop-down box that we wanted to be part of the action. So whatever value you pick in the drop-down box sets the time zone that we use. And if you pick a different value in the drop-down box, we have to go back and overwrite all those times with a time in the new time zone. So like, we can't do that all with click handlers. I mean, I guess we could, but we would have a bunch of weird indirection between calendar lists li and calendar card. Like, how do you know that calendar list li has calendar cards in it? Or is that the order? How does it work? I don't know. All right, so but what we did see here is we can incorporate some JavaScript easily. We've already done this a few times before. Init index function. So we've got our script here. This is index. I'm going to have to come back and read this code and understand it. All right, but we've got, okay, so we're going to put we're just going to do it now. So, yeah, so what we said here in our show notes is we're not going to spend a bunch of time justifying these decisions again. Wait a minute. Where did the show notes go? Yeah, okay, so we've got our picker widget idea, and the drop-down widget is part of the picker widget logic. And the JavaScript is supposed to overwrite sometime on the page in multiple places, and it will do it again if you switch that value. And it tries to infer that value on the page load, which we can use the connect event to do. And so we have to create a drop-down box with all the time zones in it, or at least most of the time zones in it. And then we have to attempt to select the correct value on connect. And then we have to follow through with that value so that it does the thing. So we've seen someone used un.js before, or whatever it was called, unpackage. Here we've got React, unpackage.com/. We're going to do the same thing here. Oh, and we saw Stimulus Use did this, so we're going to borrow Stimulus Use advice. Just like this. And I think we're going to find we don't need stimulus use. I don't know what it does yet, though. And I like that their example is easy to follow, and it's even simpler than the stimulus upstream example. So So do I just put my controller into calendar.js? Is that what it's telling me here? We're just going to try it here. Oh. Is this an anonymous function that's defined and then called? Is that what it is? It looks to be. All right, and this is a syntax error that we're going to fix so that it does something. And we're going to write something out to the console, which is what you, of course, do. When you get started with Stimulus, you always write something out to the console. I have too many windows, sorry. Hello, controller. I have to remember, is it console.log? Yeah, you call console.log. What is the deal? I have to copy my vimrc. There's something wrong here. Yeah, we need at least this much. Vim get gutter. Okay, so thank you. So thank you. Okay, so many thanks. Console, I guess it's console.log. Hello from connect function. And what we should be able to see is if we build the website, that stimulus controller. Well, so we need to connect first. We actually need a method. We need a div that invokes that. So controller. Things seem to be slowing down. I don't know if it's in my head or maybe it's good that the computer slowed down. It should think a little bit harder about what it's doing. Oh, I'm getting a little bit stream fatigued here. But we're going to finish this one today. Alright, it is not the theme, layout. Here's our team calendar. And so I want data controller hello. There, that should invoke the hello controller, and we should be able to see a sign of it in the config, in the website build when we load the website. So we know that building the website is no trivial endeavor. First we need to export path equals current path to get our Python venv, and we know the Go version is okay, and the Hugo version, oh, that's not really okay. I think that's going to be a problem. But it won't be a problem for us in CI. So we're going to race to the finish. I guess we're going to try to show how this should work in the form of the pattern as we described it, where we have our secondary repo. So it doesn't matter what Hugo version we have here. But you know what? I want this to work, so I'm going to put the right Hugo version in. What do we do here? Hugo. I think that's what I want there. Yeah, that's what I want. So you did not see that we have already checked out the version of Hugo that we want here. 1.22 or 0.122, whatever it is. Yeah, 122. This takes a minute to build. Really digging this hat for the stream. So we're going to skip a few steps because we're lazy and we think you got the point. I think you got the point. Here, okay. Great. Okay, Hugo version 122. Oh, and this, we need our GitHub token. I think I need to do this part off screen. So when I say we're going to be lazy, what I mean is I'm going to just not create a separate repo today. Well, no, we need the separate repo to demo the pattern. So we will create a separate repo. It's going to be in the Kingdom CI org. So we had this GitOps docs. We are going to have one Flux docs. And it's going to be identical to this. But for one thing, oh, perfect. We are going to make it public. We're going to remove one thing here. rm-r docs assets. Since that's where all the weight is kept. I'm sure there's a lot of heft in the git.git directory as well. Probably more than we need to carry with us, but I'm going to keep the commit history here. I forget, did we create a real workflow here? We did. Main.yaml, what does this do? Oh, Charles, you've been busy. Damn, I didn't think it was going to take that long. Oh. Well, of course, there's a lot of stuff in there as well. That we also don't need. Hold on, hold on. It's remove but in French. Now I can finally enjoy that joke properly. Yes, it's remove but in French. All right, we're going to make this docs. Flux CD website. Wrong. All right, so we're going to forget about the sync. We are going to do build. I don't know if we have to set path, if it's just going to work for us, but we'll try it. Build, clone, all sync. All right. I don't know. We're going to get rid of the assets directory. Okay. And we're going to do one other thing here. We're going to clone branch, right? No. We'll leave that up to the user. Tab pane persist, permission denied. Website public. Oh, it's not in a folder called build, it's in a folder called public. Oh. Okay, so we are going to cheat because we just want to see this deploy. I think we're almost finished. So once we see the JavaScript running in the console log, we probably don't need to finish everything on the stream. We can save some things for the imagination. We can let the boring things happen off camera. Here we go. It says deploying. We've got our new deployment here. We can put this URL into the little. I see that it's trying to prevent me from clicking before the DNS is ready, which it looks like we did not quite get there. That's a bummer. But it's ready. Okay, the website is online. And if we actually see that console log statement, oh, Millipore Sigma.png responded with status of 404. How did that happen? Stimulus use.appear is not a function. Huh. Well, we can see that our JavaScript is being called, but it doesn't look like it worked. I would like to see it work before we call this stream over. But I would also like to fix that 404 because I'm pretty sure we do have the logo. There's the problem. So it is not that we don't usually capitalize them, but we don't usually capitalize them. It's probably in data. Sorry, folks, I have to receive my coffee. I have coffee now. See? Oh, it's hot. That's good. So we're going to test. We're going to test and fix what is wrong with our thing. Let's see. I don't know, but we probably don't have to rebuild to fix it. We might have to. So we tried to call stimulus use.appear. And maybe it did not work because we did this in the wrong order. Layouts. So I think it's actually the order that these things are done in. So what if I put this just up here? I think that would work. And it is a change requiring rebuild because it's a layout in the template. So we'll build again. Oops. We should change the script so it actually doesn't emit. So it actually doesn't emit GitHub token. I'm going to have to figure out how to wipe out my GitHub token and get a new one because obviously it's been printed on the screen by this wonderful makefile. Just going to try and make deploy again. Oops. Takes a while because I guess it has to check every file for a change. Probably re-upload every file, forget about checking for a change. So that defer thing doesn't do what I thought it does, evidently. Okay, it says it's waiting for application to become ready. So is stimulus use.appear just not a function? Is that really? It kind of looks like the connect function is being called and stimulus use just isn't loaded, but stimulus is loaded. So what if we try this again? Website assets, js.calendar. I think we do have to build again, right? I don't know. I don't know where does calendar get loaded from? Oh man. I feel like a real slob now. It looks like it's not updating the screen anymore. Is that true? No. Just a strange artifact of the way things lined up. So this may have answered one of our questions, which is, should we use stimulus use? It kind of seems like they don't have their shit together because it's not actually working. Maybe I just don't understand how to use it. All right, so it's not working. Console is not defined. Is it? It's not a capital C. That would be a whole different thing. All right, and what we are actually going to do, I think, is we're going to revoke that token on the stream, and we're going to test that it actually doesn't work anymore. Because it does kind of look like it connected, and it called our function, and our function was wrong. So if that's all that's wrong, we can fix our function and move on. And where did I get that link, by the way? From this nice fella here. I don't know if it's listed here in ordinary liminal space, but we are going to have to get back to the OCI thing next time, I'm afraid. Alright, first we want to see it work. It looks like we don't have that secondary error anymore. Background task failed. No configuration available at tab.js. Well, we got our hello from the connect function. Tab.js. Buttercup. Oh, I think this is not anything to do with our website. This is my silly other extension here. Let's see. That's great. We just have the one error now. Millipore Sigma. Perfect. Okay. All right. So we can run JavaScript. We can load stimulus controllers. We can invoke them with a connect method, and we can do all the things that stimulus wants us to do. I don't know about this stimulus use. It looks like it maybe didn't work, but that's okay. We can try it again later if we don't really need that. I was just trying to understand here. Oh, this is great. We're going to break a bunch of stuff this way. Cool. It had to happen sooner or later. Perfect. All right, I feel stupid because I put my GitHub token on the screen, but at least the damage is limited now. This is better than... All right, so I think we should have some music to roll us out. And I think it's going to be Power by Ren. I like this song.
Get it? Power. These kids don't play my shit, I never had a top 10. Maybe it's cause I sing about violence and depressions. They say don't blame these kids, just focus on yourself, friend. Well, if they don't like what I'm doing now, then fuck them. Don't trip, I up the ante, learning licks like John Frusciante, smoking spliffs and popping candy, idolizing Sid and Nancy. Woo! Rock and roll in my soul, bumping, knacking cold on the dole, fish and chips and games consoles, council house and violent flow. But life weren't sweet at home. Mum and dad took a trip and they split shalom. What will be, but me, I hate to see my mum alone. Late night crying, get so high to try to silence sounds of fighting. Through the walls I heard love dying, so I focused on my... That's what it was. I focused on my... Now let's go back, let's go back. These kids don't play my shit, I never had a gold plaque. My style is old school, but I swear this ain't a throwback. I put my visions into rhythms on a dope track. To understand the place I'm coming from, let's go back. When I was 16, I was a sick teen, I was a victim of my head. I was just 16, up in the kitchen, racking up lines till my nose bled. 16, in an affliction, in an addiction with my dread. I was just 16, I was quite sick then, I was a prick then, I was a pleb, but... fuck it, we're all misguided individuals, life can suck it. My cup ain't half full, man, I'm filling up the whole bucket. I'll drink my tears so I can drown my sorrow. Sing like I might die tomorrow. Live note for note, I go for broke on every single song I wrote. And every single song I write brings freedom to my weary mind. A healing that you'll only find inside an intricate design of kicks and snares and fat bass lines. I flip the script until I find my... It is what it is. I focus on my... Now run the track, run the track. Get it? Get it? Power. Get it?
Thank you so much, friends, for tuning in.